Yeah, this chapter is amazing. This is like, if you were going to pick of any book I've ever read, like you're going to pick the best description of music, it would be this chapter. And whoever makes a movie out of this book is going to have a hell of a time trying to do justice to this chapter.
The direction is going to have to be on fucking point. I mean,
the song is going to have to be super on point. I don't even know how you write this song that, breaks everybody into tears, get a massive applause, the string breaks, like everything about it is just like, this is one of those where people are like, the book's always better. Well, this is why the books are always better. Because this is impossible. How do you do this and do justice to it?
Well, if I can just interject and kind of dissect this thing, maybe just one part. When Kvothe starts explaining the lay of Sir Sabian, and he explains the nuances of the music and how I almost think like it comes in at a half measure, and the backup of the duet, the female side of this comes in on the refrain. The thing is, as he's talking about it, I can't put into words what he was saying, but as he was talking about it, I was envisioning like this round of song, not only but the three parts, his part, the musical part, and the female side of it. Just once again, Rothfuss's descriptions having to do with music, just so on point.
Yeah, man.
That's amazing.
The counter harmony, so like I said with the last chapter, or the chapter with the duel, the tension just builds and builds and builds throughout, man. I mean, he layers in these explanations of the song. He builds value in the song. We've heard about this song multiple times. He builds value in the discussion with Stanchion about, how difficult it is. We hear little pieces of how nobody's tried it in a while. Why would that be? And it's too hard to do. He even thinks about, maybe I shouldn't do it, because Stanchion kind of tells him, maybe that's not such a good idea. Might be too risky. And that's the biggest thing, man. There's so much that's going to be on the line here. And he picks a song that's, terrific for musicians, very ballsy for a musician to even attempt because of how difficult it is. But then it takes a lot of balls to then also, there's nobody in his corner, right? He doesn't have somebody else that he brought with him to sing this song with him. He's just betting someone's going to jump in. And it's a compliment to the place at the same time. Stanchion loves this dude because he's like, well, if this place is the way you say it is, then there should be somebody here that's ready to jump in with me, right? So he says he'll double the refrain. And even just like that little beat of a breath where it's like the refrain is doubled, is she going to come in? There's like a beat, and we're like,
it's one sentence.
The tension is built to such a height.
He does it in one sentence. He says I have to, if you guys could read it, but he pairs the relief that he would have felt if someone versus the apprehension that or the anxiety that he feels. It's one sentence that really captures his own feeling of angst. That feeling of angst you feel when anything can happen one way or the other. You need this to happen, but this may happen. It's a very real possibility. He captures it in one sentence.
Yeah, he goes, I reached the end of the refrain before Eowyn's first stanza. I struck the first chord hard and waited as the sound of it began to fade without drawing a voice from the audience. I looked calmly out to them, waiting. Every second a greater relief vied with a greater disappointment inside me. Then a voice drifted onto stage, gentle as brushing feathers, singing.
Beautiful.
The whole description of that song is fucking amazing.
Well, but even leading up to that, he may is it there or is it later that he makes a bit of a mistake?
No, that was after she started. He like looked out.
Oh yeah, he tried to look out. Yeah. He couldn't resist,
and then he started to lose it. So he just had to kind of bore down on just the music.
Yeah, dude. We are kind of jumping ahead, but man,
we'll just talk. We'll just finish talking about the song, and then we'll go back and cover the rest. But
yeah, it's tremendous, man. It's just a massive amount of, again, tension throughout that continuously builds. And that point that we just talked about is so, I don't want to say rewarding, because you're being torn in both ways. But yeah, man, it's great.
And at that point,
I also like when he gets on the stage, and then, he goes from being nervous to now I'm in my environment. And like I get that a lot too. Like the thought of speaking in front of a crowd, or talking to strangers is much more nerve-wracking than when I'm actually in the moment and I'm doing it. Once I'm in the moment, I'm fine, but the lead up to it, I don't like. And he's very similar, but once he gets on stage, he just becomes fucking performer, and then he's just doing his thing. This is his environment.
Yeah, I think that rings true probably with a lot of entertainers. Just that, obviously you have a lot of apprehension going on to perform, but when you get up there and you're in your element, that's a very realistic feeling that he's giving people. Because if you talk to performers, it is you kind of become someone else. You have your apprehensions, you have your doubts and all the self-consciousness. But when you get on stage and you're able to become that person, that role, all that goes away. So yeah, that's it.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, even just the way Dan pointed out. I mean, I've felt that myself in public speaking, where it's the buildup is the worst. You're like sick in your little pit of your stomach, and you're kind of, you're nervous, you're a little nerve wracked, and then you just break the silence with like a jump off point with whatever you're about to talk about, and then that just kills it all. But the main thing is, as long as you're prepared and you know what role you're about to play, it doesn't matter. You just go right into it, and then you're fine. Once you start going into it, then you're fine. It's the buildup that's the freaking worst. But yeah, this also speaks to his, it almost seems like it reads like a superpower. Like he gets up there and it's like completely goes away. 100%.
Yeah.
And it is, dude, we've read enough to know his power in this and his confidence that, and we didn't talk about this, but when Simon is talking about how nervous he is for him, and in the previous chapter, it's not just the walk there, how he's nervous, it's when he talks about, hey man, people go up there, they spend that silver talent. And I've seen people that are ridiculously talented. This guy was great. I cried at the end of the song. He didn't get his talent pipes. This person didn't get it. He's like, yeah, you haven't heard me play yet, have you? Knowing that he hasn't heard him play. And he's like, yeah, you'll see what's about to happen. And he's super confident because he knows how good he is.
I also like when he gets up on the stage, he's like, I lit a bill, taking my time as I unclasp my battered secondhand loot case and remove my battered secondhand loot. I felt their intention sharpen at my homely sight of it. So you get that feel of this dude just looking like a poor fucking ragged little kid fucking going up on
just
stage.
Just a step above. A step out of Tarbean, really.
I love that, man, because that also happens. You step in front of everybody and they're all looking at you right now. Suddenly his clothes look like shit. Suddenly he's real cognizant of how young he is, how shitty his loot looks. But again, man, this dude is a performer at all times. He's always about his mystique and his reputation. And he knows they're all looking at him like, look how young this dude is. Look at how shitty, so they're taking in those details, and he lets them like breathe with it for a minute, lets that build a little bit in terms of what their anticipation is,
He writes this so well where like it's just so well written, where he's like, the music came easily out of me, my lute like a second voice. I flicked my fingers and the lute made a third voice as well. I sang in the proud, powerful tones of Savian Treliard, greatest of the Emir. The audience moved under the music like grass against the wind. I sang as Sir Sabian. I felt the audience begin to love and fear me. I mean, that's just so fucking well written. It grabs you. And
that's really interesting.
You also get the aspect of it is he's singing a song about the greatest of the Amir, which obviously the Amir are huge.
I love that little love and fear me, because when you are listening, that's an interesting side to it, because when you are listening to music live like that, and this person is taking you on this, trip, they're kind of this story, but it's embedded with music, so you're kind of going along with the flow. You're kind of in a vulnerable state because it's where they're going to take you, So that fear is interesting, and he talks about it when the string breaks, where it's like this thing that he's created, they start to come out just a little bit, not fully out, but they start coming out, and you hear little murmurings, and then just boom, goes right back into it and becomes who he once was. Dude, and you can't do that. You can't do that if we didn't read those previous chapters where he played the 6-string lute. He is that kid that played the 6-string lute.
It's in his description of being on stage is the allure of the performer is having those people on the string, no pun intended, having those people dangle and being able to be both that guy that can strike and keep them on the line, keep them interested, but also have them fear him as he's enveloping this character. He is Sabian, and they think he is. That's the allure of,
he has power over them too. He controls their emotions.
Right. Exactly. It's both at the same time. It's not only him in his personal self knowing that he's leading them on, but also he envelops that character, and he actually at that moment has the power that character had in its own scene.
I mean, he has so much power. He's able to completely wreck Simon. I mean, he wrecks it, dude.
Right. Yeah.
And so
not to mention the beauty of what he's doing, the beauty of the music, the beauty of the sound of what he's doing. He's encapsulating them not only as the character and people believing what he's that he is that person, but to be able, as we envision or hear in ourselves what he's doing musically, he's encapsulating the people in the beauty of his performance and the how well it's done.
It seems a lot like when he played for the group when he was traveling to the university, when he was I was spinning something gossamer and tremulous. It's a very, very similar thing. And we sang, her voice burning silver, my voice an echoing answer. Sabian sang solid, powerful lines like the branches of a rock old oak. All the while Eowyn like a nightingale moving in dark circles around the proud limbs of it. And then 2 verses from the end of the song, the end came. I struck the beginning chord of Sabian's verse, and I heard a piercing sound that pulled me out of the music like a fish dragged from deep water. String broke. And then you get the crowd slowly waking up from this dream state that he had pulled them in, where they also are like a fish out of water all of a sudden. And so you get that feel that his music is different than other people's music. It's not just like, this is a great song, I really appreciate it. Like he pulls them in on a totally different level.
So I'll give a quick aside here to attest to that feeling of pulling a fish out of water. If you've ever been on stage and had someone miss a line, like obviously, or something to that effect, totally screw up or miss a bar if you're doing a rap song or something, it's obvious and to a performer who's in the middle of that, to have that happen, and it just kind of like rips your guts out.
Yeah, it'd be like in the middle of a concert, the power goes out.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, it would just completely throw you out of it.
And when he talks about that immersion in the music, he does it quite well where he's saying, I was only dimly aware of the audience, dimly aware of the sweat on my body. I was so deeply in the music that I couldn't have told you where it stopped and my blood began. And then the string breaks. So he builds us to that climactic point where it's the entire room is all in basically like his whatever, like in his blood damn near at this point, because everything is one with the song and the entire room is all just like breathing together, and then it breaks.
The way it ends, it really gives you the magical sense. It's a long part, but I want to read it because I think this is the part that gives you the most magical sense of it. He says, in the silence I felt it all unraveling, the audience waking with the dream unfinished, all my work ruined, wasted, and all the while burning inside me was the song, the song, the song. Without knowing what I did, I set my fingers back to the strings and felt deep into myself, into years before when my hands had deep calluses like stones and my music had come as easy as breathing. Back to the time I had played to make the sound of wind turning a leaf on a lute with 6 strings, and I began to play, slowly, then with greater speed as my hands remembered. I gathered the fraying strands of song and wove them carefully back to what they had been a moment earlier. It was not perfect, no song as complex as Sir Sabian can be played perfectly on 6 strings instead of 7, but it was whole, and as I played the audience sighed, stirred, and slowly fell back under the spell that I had made for them. I hardly knew they were there. After a minute I forgot them entirely. My hands danced, they ran, then blurred across the strings as I fought to keep the lute's 2 voices singing with my own. Then, even as I watched them, I forgot them. I forgot everything except finishing the song. The refrain came, and Elowain sang again. To me she was not a person, or even a voice. She was just part of the song that was burning out of me. And then it was done. Raising my head to look at the room was like breaking the surface of the water for air. I came back into myself, found my hand bleeding and my body covered in sweat. Then the ending of the song struck me like a fist in my chest, as it always does, no matter where or when I listen to it. Like, that takes it to a whole another. At first, it like just the pace of it, like when you're reading it or listening to it, you just feel that pace building, and you feel like him running to the end of the song. And it seems magical, like it is a spell, like there is magical quality to his ability to play music.
Yeah, I almost felt like when he was playing with 6 strings instead of 7, that something was left out. No pun intended there again. But the description is so bare bones, yet it is what he said it was. That even when Denna is singing back to him, she's not even singing to him. It's pouring. The music's pouring out of him, because he's so fluid that he doesn't need the full set of strings. He doesn't really need her for the music to be a part of him. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that's the way it feels to me. Is like, man, it's just all bleeding out of him. He is in charge of this song. He is, pouring it out onto the audience, and everything that they're feeling is unrestricted by him. Go ahead.
It's similar to like his naming. When he's naming, he's kind of lost to the world. Like he's just in the moment. And like when he sees Florian, he sees her name, and he sees the wind, and he understands the moment. He's just lost, enveloped in that moment, and everything is clear to him. It is very similar to this part of when he's playing the music. He's lost to the crowd. He's lost to the other person singing. It is just the song. He's just enveloped by the song, and he's just spinning this spell on this audience. And even him himself is just lost in it. It feels like it is similar to his naming prowess. That's why I think it's so similar. When he's playing music is so similar to his naming that I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think it's, I think there's something to it. I think his magic, a lot of his magic comes through when he's playing.
Yeah. I agree. Though, and the way it sounds like it couldn't be combined better. It seems like the theme of this song, the story of the song, is also moving to people. I mean, that's at the end. He just lays there or sits there and weeps, And what he's saying is he didn't cry for himself. He didn't cry for, well, basically, yeah, he didn't cry for himself. It wasn't about him. It's about Sir Sabian and Aluine. It's about that story.
For love lost and found and lost again at cruel fate and man's folly.
It seems like,
that may be one of my favorite descriptions is him crying like a little bitch. What he's actually crying about, like he's not crying about. If we could read it, but he's not crying for anything. Not for him losing his family when he's a kid. Not for him, having missed a string or made a mistake or all the different things that, that he should have been crying about. But he's actually a part of that song. Sorry, Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, he's crying for the same reason like Simon is.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say.
For the story.
And that's why when Simon's like all embarrassed and is like, don't play this ever again, I didn't know. I didn't know. And he's like, hey, man, don't feel too bad. Same thing happened to me the first time I heard it. But it was kind of interesting when I read that because to me, when Kvothe heard it, my imagination tells me he heard his father and mother sing it. And they were like one of the, two of the best musicians that could do this song justice. So I can only imagine how that must have sounded. So again, I think that's sort of speaks to a lot of things in terms of Kvothe's, standards of musicianship and experience with the song itself. But yeah, I mean, it's the whole thing. I mean, what Rothfuss weaves together in chapters like this is just, it's pretty masterful.
Yeah, his writing level is just so high that you can't really overstate it, like how good he is at developing a scene and pulling you in the same way, Kvothe is pulling in the audience. Rothfuss is doing the same thing in the book. You're getting pulled in.
So how many times do you think, I don't know if Dan, if you possibly know, that he built up the Lay of Sir Sabian Trailiard before, this chapter? Because I know it's happened quite a few times that it's this song of, this great, great ballad that most people don't have the ability to even attempt.
Yeah, I mean, he does it a number of times. Obviously, it's probably less than what you imagine just because we've talked about it so many times.
Yeah.
But it does come up a number of different times.
I mean,
he talks about it like when Abinthy left, he talks about it, multiple times after that event. Like he brings it up probably 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
I mean, it's a combination of so many things. He hasn't played for anyone but Ari since before Tarbeen. No,
after Tarbeen, he played for the group. Yeah,
the one you just talked about. Yeah. He also has basically all his money staked here, pretty much. So big gamble there. We've heard him play before without all his strings, so that gets built in here. This is like he gets reunited with Denna, and there's so many things that if we didn't know these things ahead of time, now we don't actually know this is Denna at this very moment. We find this out, but man, it's just there's so many things that culminate that are layered prior to coming in here, and then he does such a great job building up his discussions with Diok and Stanchion and building up the song and what he's going to be able to do, and then seeing fucking Ambrose, and it's just it's everything, man. It's choosing whether or not to play the song and then making his mind up as soon as he sees Ambrose. Like, well, now I don't have a choice. Fuck that guy.
Well, since you mentioned it, Tim, I will bring up this. There's something that bothers me continually through the book, and I've mentioned it before, and that's the coincidences that occur between characters and them finding each other. Because again, him finding Denna in this specific situation and her being the What's her name?
Eloine.
Her being the one who can play the part of Eloine, and her happening to be there at this exact moment, at the first time that he goes to the Aeolian. And anyway, you guys see what I'm getting at? It's almost like, to me, when he meets Scarpy for the first time, that Abinthe happens upon him, or when Chronicler meets him in the woods. This reoccurring theme where people happen upon each other at just the right time. It as a reader or listener or whatever, it bothers me like it's too coincidental. And I realize the magical side of it, but this
no, but I mean a lot of them like here. With Chronicler, it's not a coincidence. It happened because of Bast.
Right, that's explained.
And then Scarpy, it's almost certainly not a coincidence. Is more than likely he was there specifically to wake Kvothe up. He was there purposely for that purpose. It could be that Dinah,
so saying that
is also there specifically. I don't know, but I think most of the so-called coincidences are not coincidences. I think there's very, very specific reasons, but it could be that Dinah came back looking for Kvothe. She went and did her thing in Annalyn and it didn't work out, and so she went back looking for Kvothe and happened to run into him that night, and it could just be a coincidence as far as that goes, or it could be that she is a part of some group as well. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Or that there's something else to the coincidences on a whole, maybe not being part of the Emir or something to that effect, but that I don't know, that this universe has some kind of harmony. But this instance specifically, it makes me bring it up because Scarpy's very easily explained. Chronicler is very easily explained, but again and again, the specific moments that Dinah comes into the scene are not as easy.
It's all Truman
No, they
Show.
seem to be attracted to each other.
It's all the Truman Show. Kvothe is Truman.
Huh. Maybe that.
Yeah.
The world just revolves around them. This
like
is how my world works. All these things happen.
The Truman
just for
Show
me.
plus that M. Night Shyamalan movie, The Village.
M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong.
Yeah, The Village, when like
with
people
Sinead
are
O'Connor?
living in the old timey world when they're actually in the current day time. So that's this situation. Kvothe is living in our current world, but they've got him just encaged in a massive cage, like the Truman Show, where he's living in old timey things, but really there's cars and planes and everything in this world.
It's actually an interesting.
It's like just a dome at Universal.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting point, Dan, that I'm going to bring up later when it's relevant. But that M. Night Shyamalan kind of vibe, there's a theory that I'm working on that I'm going to bring up later in the podcast. Look for you guys can look forward to that. You guys can look forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be great. There's going to be lots of alliteration.
Hey, if nothing else, I'm a showman, so I'll do that.
Look, man, I keep trying to explain this book to you guys, but you guys got to stop grabbing my tits.
You love it.
So, Dan, how did you feel when you found out Stanchion was Ginger? How did you feel about that?
A Ginger? Yeah. I'm immediately, you realize that the Aeolian is not what it was portrayed to be. It's kind of it's a shithole bar. It's low class, very low class.
So, do you feel the same way about Ilian? That Ilian's a ginger?
He's a ginger too?
Yeah.
That fiery
That's what was said. I mean,
that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this book? I What is the point of this?
Even what was it? The title of the chapter, man. Place to burn, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what he's talking
It's just
about.
gross. It's
What he's
just
talking
gross.
about.
I think they're.
I
think that they.
I don't understand why he is elevating, soulless gingers and trying to portray them in such a positive light when obviously that's not the case.
I think that you discount their passion, Dan. I think that actually gingers are another form of life here that here on Earth, and Rothfuss is doing a good job portraying that, and that they maybe are almost godlike, Nephilim, if you will, the fiery red hair of the.
Yeah, it's very sacrilegious.
I was wondering how you guys felt about going back a little bit when they first get there and they're ordering drinks. Sim orders cinnamon mead,
yes.
and Will calls him a pussy. And then
girl. But I love Willem here, where it's cinnamon mead. Simmons said without stopping to think, "Girl." Willem said in a vaguely accusatory way and turned to me. "Cider," I said. "Soft cider." "Two girls," he said, and walked off to the bar. Love that. Like, that's 100% like a guy friend's reaction to each other.
Yes. Yeah.
Like in our situation, ordering a fruity cocktail or
well, I love the soft
fruity martini or something.
Not just cider, soft cider. Can you make it a little softer, a little softer, a little more pleasant for me, please? Cider water.
quick aside. I was dating this girl and her friend, and we were doing like a double date with her friend and her friend's boyfriend. And this guy, I'm probably like 21 at the time, and this guy kept talking about how he wanted to get out and drink, like how amped he was to get out and drink. And then we go to the place and like order beer or whatever, and then he orders a Corona, and he asks for grenadine to be in it. And then like he like turns to me, is like, it's real citrusy, so I like the grenadine. Grenadine helps. Where I was like, dude, you were just like talking like this big game, like you're fucking Mr. Man and fucking gonna drink, and then you're fucking turning to me with Corona's just a little citrusy and it hurts my stomach. It's like, dude, you are the biggest fucking puss ever. What are you talking about? Like, you just blew up every bit of game you were trying to lay down, like to start the night.
I love it. He Shirley Temples his Corona.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. So, but what I'm getting here, Dan, is if you add a little grenadine to your Corona, it's less citrusy. I like that. I might try that.
You put some cherries in it too.
Oh my god, that's
just the juxtaposition of oh man, I can't wait to drink. I'm gonna get so fucking drunk. Hey, yeah, give me a Corona, but then throw some grenadine in it because it's real citrusy.
You have something for my tummy? You have something for to wash it down with my tummy? I need something to put on.
Fucking dudes, man. But yeah, that's what I think of when he's like, "Girl."
Well, I do. It does definitely hint at they're becoming closer friends. They're very familiar around one another to talk shit like that. Because, that's one thing that you do definitely know. When you see what looks like a group of friends just being complete pricks to one another, that's when you know they're really good friends.
Yeah.
Because if you're being still polite, those are like work friends. They're not actually friends. But when you're being a real prick.
Unless you're Dan, because I guarantee that guy didn't get off asking for grenadine in his Corona. Dan, I'm sure called him a bitch.
I doubt it. I don't believe I said anything. Like, I think I like completely lost respect for him, and like it was like
still came out in your attitude.
There was no chance of us being friends after that moment. Like, you don't go from like I'm Mr. Billy Badass and want to fucking drink, and then fucking turned to me and like, I need grenadine in my Corona because it's just so citrusy. Like, nah, dude, we ain't gonna be friends after that.
What if
we're not the same type of dude.
What if he turned around and bonged it? He bonged it with the grenadine.
Well, he would have had to have done something like that, fucking like bonged it and then smashed the glass over his face to fucking make up for it. Then I would have been like, all right, well, dude, if you're smashing glasses over your face, you can fucking put your grenadine in it because you can't handle the citrus Corona.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
There's some of the other good stuff was you get the introduction to Dioc and kind of like the charismatic quality of Kvothe. When he offers them to buy a drink and Simon, kind of shits his pants over it and like, dude, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like this guy fucking threw a guy out for kissing up to him, but like Kvothe is just. He's such a charismatic dude that, Dioc immediately loved him, and then he meets Stanchion immediately loves him.
What's so great about
he's
that
genuine.
Is, I was going to say, he's not politicking. He's not trying to glad hand anybody. He's literally just, like you said, he's genuine. He's talking to them like he would talk to them. And he does happen to be a charming dude, so there's that.
And his worldly charm comes out because he's like, Dioc, oh, that means drink. So maybe I can buy you one later. Like you can imagine somebody who comes into a place like that trying to curry favor and says, oh, well, let me buy you a drink, versus Kvothe, who's like, hey,
your name means fucking to drink. Let me buy you a drink.
Yeah.
Here's another one where like he's able to write charismatic so well, where he's like, you're a proud one, aren't you? He said, frankly. I looked around the room. Isn't this the Aeolian? I had heard that this is where pride pays silver and plays golden. I like that, Stanchion said, almost to himself. Plays golden. He slammed his tankard down onto the bar, causing a small geyser of something frothy to erupt from the top. Damn it, boy, I hope you're as good as you seem to think you are. I could use someone else around here with Ilian's fire. He ran a hand through his own red hair to clarify his double meaning. I hope this place is as good as everyone seems to think it is, I said earnestly. I need a place to burn. Like he's just smooth.
Yeah. And I think that he's not lying when he says, I need a place to perform.
Yeah, for sure. No, he's 100%.
At Kvothe's heart, he is 100% a performer and someone who completely draws off the crowd, off the people around him who are the people who watch him do what he does.
And you get the good banter between him and Willem with the sometimes my mouth just starts talking and it takes my mind a little bit to catch up. This happens often, does it? Asked Willem with one of his rare quiet smiles. This banter began to relax me more and more often, I confess, grinning. The good back and forth of their shit talking. It's well written in how realistic it is in guys' relationships, how much they talk shit.
It's a pretty good. That's also a great line from Kvothe about who he is, because that's pretty insightful to like what gets him into a lot of trouble every now and then. Is like he just goes and then kind of has to deal with the repercussions after the fact.
Yeah, and you also get him seeing Ambrose walking in, and you get Simmons' naivety and his, you could just ignore him, Simmons said, sounding surprisingly sober. Just don't rise to his baiting and he'll tire of it soon enough. No, I said seriously, looking at Simmons in the eye. No, he won't. I like Simmons, but he was terribly innocent at times. Once he thinks I'm weak, he'll be on me twice as thick as the day before. I know his type. She's right. I mean, had he not got into it with him in the beginning, it could have been a different story. He could have laid low. But once his shit happened with Fella, you're either all in or you're getting ran over from that point on, because he's not going to let that go.
There was another interesting aspect that I held from their exchange, and that was the look between the two of them that was expressionless. And if you've ever had someone that you truly hated, or just really wanted to fight or something to that effect, where it's not even like it's almost like you have zero feeling towards that person. It's a hatred that comes from your gut, that you don't want to give them any time of day or any emotion. You're just looking at them because you hate them so much that you're just enveloped in that hatred for them. That palpitated from that little scene where they looked at each other, and Kvothe says, I don't even know who looked away first, because it's almost like that wasn't the point. It wasn't important. It's just that between the two of them, there's a vile hatred.
Yeah, the way that read to me, I made a similar note where that's real hatred. The way it was described is just, he's like, whatever. Ambrose is doing his fucking trying to charm some woman. Then he looks away. His gaze wanders over to their table and their eyes meet. Smile fades. For a long moment, we simply watched each other expressionless. Neither of us smiled mockingly or mouthed small insulting nothings to the other. Nevertheless, all our smoldering enmity was renewed in those few minutes. I cannot say with certainty which of us looked away first. Yeah, I got the same vibe of like, this fucking dude. Like, you know what I mean? Every time you look over, you're just like, oh, fuck this fucking guy. I don't have a lot of enemies, but yeah, I can picture that vibe for sure. And
I've had those moments. It's never had like it was a moment over like, this is my mortal enemy, but I've had moments with like dudes in bars where it was like, that dude's my severe enemy at this moment in my life, where it's just me, staring at them like, with just dead eyes to them. Just, I want to just smash a fucking bottle in your face. And if you give me the reason, I will. Like, it's like just pure hatred, not rational, just pure hatred.
Yeah. Again, so well written. Just really that feeling. we can all identify with that completely. Just so well written.
Yeah. The only other parts I had on it were the very beginning of the chapter, when the two parts where he talks about like how he's walking. Willem and Simon are commenting on how he's walking, just that confident strut that he's got, and they mention Puppet, which we get another mention of Puppet, and they keep layering him in, which is interesting because they bring him up a number of different times, and we don't even meet him until the second book, and we only meet him once.
Yeah, it was very interesting to me. I love the scene with Puppet. I think it's tremendous. I love the character. I love what they did. The back and forth that they have, and how Puppet sort of gives this visual with this sort of back and forth sort of questioning, and I think it's freaking great. I get the feeling that maybe Rothfuss toyed with him being a bigger character, or maybe he's bigger in book 3. I don't know, but almost feel like it didn't work for some reason. Like the pacing didn't work, or however he tried to work him in just didn't work. I don't know.
There's another scene with Puppet that was cut out.
Hey, can I pause you guys for a second, because I'm not I don't remember Puppet. When we're talking about him here, actually, when I read this chapter, I was kind of like, now what is it about Puppet that's so?
Puppet was the guy that was that lives in the library. They have a bet on who disbanded the Emir, him and Willem, and when they go to settle the bet, they both find a book, and they come away tied from the books, and then they go to Puppet, and he settles the bet for him. He's the guy that while he's talking to Kvothe, he's doing the marionette, the puppet show, and so he's got a quality very similar to Ari and Elodin, that he's kind of cracked and kind of a savant.
So why is it that Sim so easily recognized that Willem has been talking to him at this point?
Because of how observant Puppet is. And so when he's like, like Willem says, it's the way he's holding himself, breaking his usual thoughtful silence, standing straight, neck unbent, shoulders back. When he steps, his whole foot treads the ground, not just the ball, as if he would run, or the heel as if he would hesitate. He steps solidly down, claiming the piece of ground for his own. It's just that observant quality is very much like Puppet, and being able to, like that whole interaction with Puppet and Kvothe, he's observing Kvothe very, very closely.
By the way, to say that he was tight or coiled like a spring, nothing brings it all home to when he steps, he claims that piece of ground. Like that kind of makes it all. It's all makes sense at that point. How he's carrying himself. That he's very confident and so confident that when he steps, his whole foot steps onto the ground and claims that piece. I thought that was very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's great. The whole, and it was interesting to see that comment about Puppet, because I feel like without it being a reread, you kind of lose that quality altogether. I mean, it's hinted, but it's hard to like hang on to that and remember that from when you finally get the Puppet. But it very much, he's big on observation, and he's sort of through how he acts, how he sees people, and how he doesn't miss a thing of what's going on. He's so observant. People, like it seems like Willem here, starting to pick that up in his own life. So it's kind of like lead by example sort of situation with Puppet. But yeah, the chapter's freaking great that he's in. I loved it. I thought it was amazing.
The last parts that I had on this chapter was on the stone bridge. They go, when we came to the stone bridge, the ancient arc of gray stone that spanned the Omethi River between the university and Imre, over 200 feet from one bank to another, and arching more than 60 feet at its peak. Stone Bridge had more stories and legends surrounding it than any other university landmark, which again lends some credence towards the fact that where these places are built could either be the twin cities of Morella and Marilla from the Creation War times, or it could be all part of Bellin, which is also from the Creation War times. It just gives a lot of credence to this is one of those last 7 cities. And then the Spit for Luck, that is something I brought up before. Elodin, when he's leaving the university to go meet up with the mayor, and he meets Elodin on that bridge right before he's about to leave, Elodin is like spit for luck. It's another one of those instances where Elodin seems to have some kind of foresight or knowledge into events of Kvothe's life. He's able to look into Kvothe. I don't think it's all like he's, hiding behind some bushes watching Kvothe. I think it's more than likely that he can kind of read him like a book.
I thought it was something that people did, like everybody throws a coin into the river or throws a coin into the bank or whatever. Everybody spits for luck.
Yeah, I would agree if it was just that one instance though. But then there's also do you know the 7 words to tell a girl that'll make her fall in love, after he's already told Denna the 7 words that she says made her fall for him. And then you have when he's playing cards with Manette and Will, and Manette grills Kvothe like, if you got 5 spades, 5 spades have been laid, whatever, how many spades do you have left in your hand? I can't remember the whole spiel, but Loden gives him the same exact question during one of the admissions. So there's just multiple times where Loden is repeating verbatim shit that other people have said to Kvothe. And I don't think he just wrote that numerous examples like that if there's not something to it.
I've written the publisher, and I've been assured that they're cutting out the spitting over the bridge. It's horrible. It shouldn't be in the books. People read that and think it's okay to spit. No, yeah, it's terrible. This is going to spread disease all over the world. It's a horrible thing. No one should be doing it. They shouldn't be doing it in the books. And if somebody reads it, they're going to think it's okay to spit. I don't care where you're spitting. It's bad. You can't do it. Should be illegal. We have to stop this.
What if it's like in your house?
No,
like you
can't
can
do it in your
spit
house.
on your own floor.
Nope.
Yeah, on your own floor.
Not even brushing your teeth. Can't spit. It's horrible.
It's pretty. I think it's lucky.
Well, I think that is invasive. So
that's why they always say you should swallow.
Sometimes mandates.
Never spit. Right? That's where that comes from.
Is that where you're going with that? Is that what you're planning to do with that, Tim?
I didn't really have a plan. Didn't really have one.
Gotta always make it gross. You guys always gotta make it gross. Real immature.
I feel like I've stayed away from the
grossities. I'm going for the grossities? Is that what you said? I'm just going for
taking liberty.
I'm saying we heighten things, more elegance, less spitting.
Yeah. Like dumping loads, man. That's elegant. And then you make it all fucking gross and perverted with your unpoetic shit.
Dumping loads? Jesus.
Yeah.
Is that a euphemism for taking out the trash? Is that what that is?
It's doing laundry.
Oh. Okay.
What else would it be?
What else would it be, Tim?
I don't know. That's why I asked. I wasn't sure.
Yeah. It's the only thing it could be. Yeah, I didn't have anything else. And then the only thing I had on the last chapter 55, was then waiting. I heard the silence pouring from them. The audience held themselves quiet, tense, and tight, as if the song had burned them worse than flame. Each person held their wounded selves closely, clutching their pain as if it were a precious thing. Then there was a murmur of sobs released and sobs escaping, a sigh of tears, a whisper of bodies slowly becoming no longer still. Then the applause, a roar reaping like flame, like thunder after lightning.
Dan, so like the few women in the audience who couldn't control it, or Sim, like everybody's like so awestruck of the performance itself, and then somebody's like, woohoo. That's how I envision that sob. Oh man, that's so well written. That even just the applause part of this chapter, just the applause part of the culmination of this was so well written. Just like you can feel it, right?
The tension,
so good.
The tension of the doubt and the anticipation and his nervousness of not knowing did this even work? I don't even know if this worked. To me, it sounded great. But what if the whole thing was just ridiculous? What if it was just a terrible tragedy of the song to just me? You know? I thought that paragraph is huge because it just builds that tension out where it's like, I mean, he thinks he did some great thing, but you don't know until the applause comes.
Yeah.
It's great, man.
Yep.
That limbo, that moment of limbo is fantastic.
Even though it was perfection of perfection, it's still in the artist's mind. It's still like, well, what do you guys think? What do you guys think?
It's so you can't even. I mean, thankfully Ambrose was there. Thankfully Ambrose does this because I mean it just makes the moment that much greater, man. It's one thing to play a beautiful song and to move the audience, but to then do it with that setback, I mean, it's phenomenal. You know, it's that much better. It's Jordan with the flu.
Yeah.
The whole performance is so perfect, man. In the eyes of the reader, just everything comes together in this. The defeating of his enemies. You find out that Den is the other side of it. There's so many. Well, and so much.
And it's the recognition of his talent. I mean, he knows it. He's confident in it. We're confident in how much he believes it. And we believe it because, we've been there with him, but we haven't been in a room where he's getting his recognition, and he gets it in spades.
It's like popping a really big zit. Do you agree?
Jeez. No.
Finally popping it.
Not at all. What do you mean, finally?
No, but finally popping this big zit. Like, finally, it's the release.
What's the finally? I don't get the. What are you just letting it culminate and build, and then you're like, oh, it's ready, it's ripe.
Yes.
You're a fucking weirdo.
All this time we've been waiting for Kvothe to get off, for him to show everyone just how pussy his musical talent is.
This is gross.
This is the worst analogy and comparison of all time.
Dude, I'll stick with the Jordan with the flu comparison. Is much more poignant than a freaking pussy zit. Yeah. What in the hell?
I think you'll come to see that it doesn't work out well for Kvothe. He's an anti-hero.
How about Mary Lou Retton with didn't she have like an injury and still did like a great gymnast thing?
No, that was a different girl.
Not the same thing.
That was a different girl.
Not the same thing anyway.
Wow, you had a broken string.
Shannon Tweed? No, not Shannon Tweed.
Girl twisted her ankle and then fucking nailed the landing with a busted ankle to win a gold medal. Like when the U.S. the gold medal. I don't remember her name, but yeah.
Shannon something.